Welcome to a new episode of the City Gents. You got me, King Javon. You got Santiago. I know I didn't let him introduce himself. I just did it. No, I'm just kidding.
Hello, que it's your boy Santiago. ¿Cómo estás, mi hermano?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Whatever that means. No, I'm just kidding. I know what I mean. How you been, brother? Talk to us. What's going on?
Man, I don't have none. I don't have no complaints. I mean, I could complain, but I don't have anything to complain about, man. A lot of stuff just happening. Exhausted. I got to sleep yesterday for the first time longer than I've gotten sleep all the last couple of weeks, but when you get so accustomed to working and you have like a full day off, it's kind of weird. You just
Hmm.
feel like there's something you should be doing and you're not doing anything. So it just feels, at least for me, my center of gravity is a little off. But it's a good feeling because that means that I'm out of that mindset of, just being lazy and let the days pass away and stuff. So everything's solid. Our promo bid launched. We got two more promo vids coming for the clothing line. We're getting already some good contacts, good feedback. Just been grinding real hard with that. So I know, I know that that's gonna take off. We just gotta, keep our head in the dirt, keep moving forward, and just keep our foot on the pedal, tunnel vision, and just keep moving forward. What
Yeah,
about you,
man.
bruh?
For me, man, I've been adjusting back to some normality, as they say, with us being locked down. It's been adjustment with socializing. I'll be like people getting on my nerves, but
Yeah,
since I've been alone for a little while, but no, I mean things have been pretty good, man. It's really been a lot about like time management, being that it's it's enough time in the day, as they say, but at the same time, we don't feel like it because when we got so much going on. So a lot of things. Look forward to sharing them on the podcast. I know you know some of the things, just like I know some
yeah,
of the things. But as the audience, I hope y'all keep tuning in. Y'all may find out some of the things we got lined up in the future.
yeah. Because I'm be back in Chicago, bruh, for again next month, and then or not next month, next week. Excuse me, and then I got to go to LA again, and hopefully I can get to New York in August by August because I got some plans and some stuff that's unraveling over out there with some people that I met, on a photography thing on the photography side, and I got some other stuff, cooking. So I mean, I don't like to talk too much until it's at a point where I could speak on it. So I'm just keeping forward with that, bruh. And other than that, man, it's just been crazy.
Understood, man. Understood. So, how that brings us to our topic. I was gonna say how, but then I thought about it. Let me introduce the topic to y'all. So our topic is going to be a little bit different. I know last week y'all heard us talking about like alpha and beta and how to like navigate those mindset, but there's something else within that that we're going to talk about when it comes to like when you do have like a success mindset or when you do have the abundance mindset, as they say, how a person navigates when they are successful or even becoming successful. How do they navigate when they don't have support, or and as well as when they do have support, but it's not always the most positive from their circle around them. How do you choose to be around like people, and how do you notice like the errors if someone is not as supportive as you think you are? So how you been navigating that, man, as you building success now? How do you navigate building your circle and staying positive even if they not all the time? Not sure if they are or aren't.
So for me, this is a great topic. So I'm saying back in the day, like I'm 50. Back in my day when no, but just 4 or 5 years ago, that's stuff that really affected me. My close friends not or use that term loosely, friends were not very supportive in a lot of decision I made. And like I spoke on the last two episodes, we kind of touched on some of the ways that we've grown mentally, and emotionally, and matured in those different aspects, not just from a physical standpoint or a financial standpoint. Back then, I had this mindset of, without realizing it, I wanted to please people. And what I mean by that is at the same time, I didn't care what other people thought, but I cared what people thought. I know that's kind of like an oxymoron,
Mhm.
but it was more the close people to me. I wanted them to see, oh, he's doing something he loved, da 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 da. But a lot of them weren't supportive. And that caused me to really, and this is why I'm such a huge advocate, and have you heard me on different episodes really telling people to just essentially forget about what everybody else says and do what you want to do. You truly don't need that support, because it affected me to the point where, and this is just on me, it's not on them, I didn't pursue my goals fully. When it got hard or difficult, I did what a lot of people do. I stopped. And I tried to blame the people around me. Oh, it's because they didn't support me. It's because my parents didn't support me. It's because, this person, that person. But when you get older, you realize that it's just you that needs to support you. And that's easier said than done. But one way to navigate that is you have to look at, do you all have the same goals in mind? Do y'all have the same ambitions? And this doesn't make anybody, a bad person, but everybody has their different goals and ambitions. So you have to be very careful who you explain your goals and ambitions to. And the reason for that is, like I said before, it's like a child. You're not going to have anybody. Well, most parents wouldn't have anybody around their kid, because kids are very malleable. Kids are very, you don't want just anybody. You don't want their vibes or spirit or whatever you want to call it. Use whatever interchangeable word that works for you. You don't want that around you, but also in a different tone, you don't want your kid to pick up bad habits. They're gonna pick them up from you. So that's one thing when it comes to your idea. You have to treat it the same way. You don't need everybody doesn't need to know what you're doing. Everybody doesn't need to know, how you're doing it. Network and connect with the right people is the best way to do it, and really know that everybody's not going to be able to see your vision the way you see it, and you have to be okay with that. But that comes for really being confident in a decision you make, even if that takes time.
Mm. That's a good point, man. I think that oftentimes, like when we think of our friends or people in our lives, in our lives, especially like more so as you start to grow and develop into the person that you want to be or need to be, not everybody is going to be able to support you. I mean, personal experience, like I look at, I had this close friend in college, and y'all may like hear, I haven't actually dropped his name. I was just thinking maybe I dropped his name before in the podcast. But anyway, so I had this close friend in college. He always like total opposite of me. I was kind of I wasn't struggling completely with my confidence, but to some degree I was. And he always would like give me encouragement or say different things. But the interesting part of it was like he would say that he seen that people were envious of me, like in the sense of they had a hard time being around me. And he was like, bro, it's because he was like, though you struggle with your confidence and you're nice, you people are jealous of like who you are right now. Like, and you don't even know who you becoming because I mean, I was playing sports. I had women, but I still didn't feel like myself, that value in myself was as high.
Right.
And but he's seen it. And, sometimes some people will see it, but then I had a bunch of other friends who I thought was close friends. I'm like, man, why do they be doing this? Like when I tell them about stuff that I got going on, or stuff like that, they don't got nothing to say. They don't say nothing positive to me about it. They're not giving me that motivation. I'm like, bro, like, what is this? He was like, not everybody's gonna support your dreams like you do. And you have to, it usually happens pretty early on. You may not notice it, but when you start telling people your visions and stuff like that, especially people that's close to you, if you start seeing that they're not supporting it, they always have something negative to say. Watch those people.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
Oh no, I didn't want to
Oh no,
cut
you go.
you. Oh, um, what I was just gonna say is I completely agree with you that it's not even just if they, you know, make joke about it or anything like that. Is, and we all can sense this energy, is when you tell them your goals and ambition and the conversation gets really dry.
Mm-hmm.
Like you feel the shift of, oh, that's awesome. Okay, now I want to decipher. That's a difference from you being the person who always have these goals and dreams, and you're talking about 50 different things in 2 weeks, and you didn't do not one thing. and then your close friend is just kind of like, oh, okay, because you're just a talker.
Yeah.
That's different from you actively pursuing a specific dream, goal, ambition that you have, and you telling people or you telling close friends where you're at, where you're moving to, where you're going with it, and they're kind of, oh, that's cool. So what are we going to do this weekend?
Mm-hmm.
So I
Exactly.
completely agree with you there, completely, because one of the things that I also struggle with, and it took actually just recently, a couple of weeks ago, one of my close friends just telling me it, because we're talking of how if I share some on any of my social media, it's not that I don't get love or whatever from it. The likes is not necessarily what I care about. It's they're in action, so it could be shown on different news feeds. You feel me? So what I realize is when I post something versus when somebody else posts the same thing, it's a complete difference. And he's like, no, man, I think I was like, watch. So we did it. We did a couple, different things because we have relatively same type of group of people. And he was like, man, you're right. But he said, I think more that is just, and he was just honest with me. It's like, even when I first met you, man, you just have this aura around you where a lot of people are not going to like you, but they don't even know why they don't like you.
Mm.
And he said, I gravitated it because you seem very like, it don't matter what you're going to figure stuff out. But other people are going to see that as whatever reason they're going to be, like you said, envious in different ways. And that's an aspect of it I never looked at, because one, as you know, I don't like sharing my life on social media, but I recognize with the two businesses that I run, I have to do that. It's just the nature of it all. So that's definitely been an adjustment for me to figure out, and I'm sure for other people, because other people compete when somebody is supportive of somebody else versus supportive of them. And it does affect a lot of people mentally.
Yeah. I've always thought it was as they say, ironic how I'll see people support people that they don't know before people they do know. That I mean, they'll support like, oh, this concert or this coming up or that coming up. And I'm like, these people you don't even know, but yet like people in your circle, not even always in your circle, it can be in your family. Cause I've seen that happen. I mean, in my personal situation, that's happened too. I mean, most of my cousins or relatives didn't go to like college. And I don't even think college is great. I mean, I just happened to go, but for them, a lot of them didn't go, and that experience was different. And a lot of times you'll notice that like it can be your friends, it can be your family, it can be um people that even on the outside. I mean, nowadays we're living in a fake society, and what I mean by fake, and you hear me say this term, I'm saying that we post things in lives that we don't. A lot of people, I'm not saying you or I, but a lot of other people, as we know, Santiago, post lives that they're not even living. Like they'll post like that they're driving this car, but it's really rented, or this house, and people will be like, "Oh, I love what you're doing," but they don't even have a foundation of who they are. But then when people who are truly trying to grind and live life, not showing off like the fancy lifestyle, they showing off the hard work they're putting in. People don't really support those people, or people who's just getting started. I mean, for me, I've really noticed this come to fruition, and I think it has something to do with the social media as well as like the jealousy mindset that so many people have. I mean, we all get to a different stage. I don't believe, and I'm going to use this term, and I don't like this term, that everything happens for a reason. I don't like the term because everyone says it, but everything happens in the perfect timing of your life. I mean, there's people that are sometimes a little bit more advanced. I mean, as a lot of times we see that like 50-year-olds will be hating on someone that's 20, that's like just getting they're starting their business or something like that, because they didn't do that, because they're unhappy with the way that their lives turned out, and they haven't made a foundation of themselves, so they're jealous of this 20-year-old when they should be trying to motivate that young man or that young woman to be like, hey, these are some of the mistakes I made on my journey to success, or whatever else that you can give. But it's like, no, that's going to be horrible. No, that's not your clothing brand, Santiago. It's not going to go good. You know what I mean? Like they don't want to
Yeah.
support somebody's got lifestyle,
Yeah.
hard work.
And I 100% agree with that. I recognize, I've talked to, because I honestly just talk to almost anybody. Like I have the personality where I could talk, but then there's times where I don't want to be bothered with nobody. Like, leave me alone. Don't approach me. But one big thing I've noticed with a lot of people in the previous generation is they're so quick to talk about how we handle things, how it's our fault that this happened or that happened, that the economy is this way. And I'm not going to get too much into that aspect of it, but how we don't stay at jobs too long and stuff. And I don't see the problem with that. Yes, some people do just job hop and they can't take any criticism and they need help because they're going to have a terrible adult life if they keep up that type of approach. But other people understand that I'm not going to waste my time at a place that is no longer fruitful for myself. Older
Mm,
people in different generations will stay at a job 30, 40 years for whatever reason.
mm,
You know, millennials, as they call it, we will stay 6 months, a year, 2 years, and we realize, you know what? There's no growth. There's no room for growth. There's nowhere to go. This isn't what I want to do anymore. And we'll move on. We'll take the
mm,
skill set we know, and a lot of us will apply it in different ways. And as it pertains to that, I see a lot of older folks really talking, essentially down
mm.
to us. Like you said, oh, why are you doing this or why are you doing that? They almost want to box us in. Like I've talked about in other episodes, when people, and even Craig Mack, people in the corporate world, oh, you're gonna be here 30 years like me. I mean, no, I'm not. This is not my goal. And if I was, I'm not gonna stay in this mid-level to entry-level position for 30 years. I'll be the CEO well before that time comes up.
Right.
Or the CFO. I'm gonna be some executive for sure. Yeah, I'm there's no question.
Yep.
But I don't like the way that a lot of older folks box us in. So you have that side of the spectrum. And then the instant gratification side, you have, like you said, people sharing all this stuff. Either it's rented, they're using credit cards and all this stuff to purchase this fake lifestyle, to share it. Because a lot of people do things for likes. And let's just be real. You're not going to post something and to get 1 or 2 likes and you're going to want to take it down.
Right.
It's just the facts. A lot of people want people to be like engaged in their dream as they were, as much as they are. And some people just not like that. Some
Mm-hmm.
people, that's why you really have to be in control of your destiny, and the whole, everything happens for a reason. That's true to an extent, but sometimes you create your own reason. Sometimes you create your own path, whether positively or negatively. Because for me, not realizing it, but for making a simple mistake of applying for Great Lakes Credit Union back in 2015 to instead of consumers out back in Lake County, has unfolded a different, chain of events for my life. Because there's very key people that I've met between 2015 and now that have helped propel me to different aspects of life.
Mm.
And I could go break it down and everything, but we ain't got all that time, and nobody want to hear me break down every little thing. Nobody wants to hear that. So when it comes to, older folks and, helping, younger folks, there's a lot out there that are just jealous and envious because a lot of us decide to be like, we want something different for our life. We don't want to ask another grown man or grown woman to take a vacation as a grown
Yeah.
person ourselves. We want to be able to, quote unquote, live freer. A lot of us, is our time that is valuable. That's why we'll leave a position. I know you saw the thing about Goldman Sachs. You got people making 6 figures but working 90 hours a week, and like, I'm gone.
Mm-hmm.
But then you got the older generation. Oh, that's it. Y'all know, y'all complain about everything. Y'all so entitled, and maybe we are to a point. We are, but not in the way that they make it seem.
Yeah. A good point. I mean, I think that we're, to shift a little bit gears but stay on topic, uh, we're in a society that the older generation are still here. Would that be? Not X, or what generation? I
Yeah,
don't know.
so it'll be Gen X so it's Gen X, it's baby boomers, Gen X, millennials,
Yeah.
Gen Z.
Yeah. So the baby boomers and the Gen X are still there, and a lot of them see that the lifestyles and the changes. I mean, technically, the Gen Z, their lifestyle is a little bit different. Like, though as millennials, we kind of grow up and we're growing up in a technology age as well, but they're definitely growing up in more technology than we are. I mean, it's 4-year-olds that know how to navigate an iPhone. I was outside when I was 10 or 11. They inside playing
Yeah.
games. I mean, I didn't navigate no phone at no 4 years old. I was playing with
No.
toys.
Yeah.
So
Same.
um, that's going to be even for us a different. That's still a different generation. But going back to what we are saying, like th- that does not mean that their advantages. I should be jealous of their advantages that they're growing up even more in technology and immersed in that than I
Mhm.
was. I mean, my life, I have to look at the life that I live now. I mean, I'm 27. I at 27, I have a lot of things that I've accomplished. You have a lot of things you accomplished, as I know, Santiago. So I only can look at the circumstances that I use with my life. I can't look at the next generation and propel that they're so negative because they're growing up in a different world. I mean, times are different. I'm not working 100 hours a week. I'm finding a way to not work 100 hours a week to make the same amount of money as somebody who did work 100 hours a week. That's the generation that I'm in. I mean, I'm working smart, not hard anymore. I
Yeah.
think I think it's also hard for people who want to discredit someone like hard work. And what I mean by that is that the hard work is just a little bit different. I mean, if I grind and build a software, like I mean, if you think of Facebook, if they grinded and built a software company in a sense, that's what it is. But somebody else may have grinded and did some type of a different type of business. That doesn't mean that their hard work should be discontinued. You know,
Mhm.
I also know that when I look at my own particular life, I think it's hard for some people with my circumstances that I know some individuals have not understood. They'll say like, "You grew up in a single parent household. you uh, you had all these disadvantages. So how are you doing better than me at 27?" And I know people that's 30s like feel that way about me, and they've literally kind of admitted it. They're like, "How are you doing better at me?" I was like, "Because I use that adversity to propel myself, to feed off of it, and to empower me instead of like let it like just set me back." And I think that's the
Instead
other
of
sad thing.
instead of like being the victim
Victim.
mindset.
And that's the biggest, thank you. That's exactly where I was getting to. The biggest thing is like the victim mindset. So when I was talking about alpha and abundance, you have to not have this victim mindset. Learn to have abundance. Learn to find things that you're passionate about and learn to say that I'm going to be better for myself each day.
Yeah, I'm gonna be better. It's just me versus me type of mentality, and because that's your strongest competition is that your mindset is either your greatest ally or your worst adversary. You get
Mhm.
the great thing is you get to choose based on what you feed your mind, and what the music you listen to, the books you're reading, the movies you watch, or and all that. Even the food you eat,
Mhm.
it's even down to that. So for me, one thing I don't like that I hear frequently, and I know I've been guilty of this in the past, is that victim mindset. Oh, because this happened to me, I'm this way. Okay. Oh, I was born into this. I was born with this. Or the key phrase of somebody who doesn't want to change at all. I'm just this way. This is how I am.
Mhm.
No, you need to do something about that. That's not okay. That sucks to whatever life event that was tragic and negative that happened to you. Anybody with any type of empatheticness to them will understand that they shouldn't have went through whatever it was at whatever age it was. The fact is, unfortunately, that event happened. So what are you going to do to overcome it?
Yep.
Because you now using that as excuse to be who you are doesn't help the situation at all. It doesn't give you the healing that you need, and it doesn't give you it does it, first of all, whatever happened to you, if another person was involved in that instant, it gives them the power over your life, even outside of whatever event that may have been.
Yeah.
So not only does this person have the power over your life, over that event, you giving them that power moving forward because you're refusing to get whatever type of help that you need. And we can always make these excuses about, oh, resources aren't available to us. I don't want to hear that. because the internet is right there. You can figure it out.
Yep.
And going back to what you said concerning, you know, you use Facebook as an example of people who grew, you know, who grinded and everything. Everybody wants to get up in arms about Jeff Bezos being a ridiculous, you know, a billionaire, multi billionaire, and Amazon being the, you know, having $1 trillion valuation. Here's the thing, though. Like I said earlier, he took losses for years before he made a profit. And then when he made a profit, this man was worth $10 billion, I think, in the 90s or maybe five, somewhere around there, and was still driving a Honda Civic. And now it's to the point to where all his hard work is coming to fruition, and people want to be mad. Like, oh, that squirrel said he made all this money. Are you going to go 20 years, or let's call it 5 years, without a real paycheck?
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, a lot of people try to get mad at people like, I do think they're a monopoly or becoming that. That's something that I do get. It needs to be broken up in some way. But at the same token, I remember when the pandemic first started back in, you know, when everybody was on lockdown. I think, you know, it would have been technically second quarter of 2020. And the numbers came out for Amazon. And I think they made like a stupid amount of money in the second quarter. And people are like, this is sick. This is disgusting that he's making all this money. Nobody told y'all to shop at Amazon.
For real.
It's a choice. Imagine you making somebody rich and then get mad that you made them rich.
Yep.
So it's just, for me, that, again, that's a symbol of victim mindset. Oh, the 1%ers are taking over. A lot of these 1%ers, you know, the 1%, do they got like 99% of the money? Yes, they do. But a lot of them were homeless at one point, Mark Cuban being one of them. They sold garbage bags. They took losses for business. They dropped out of college. They took these risks. So they should be rewarded.
Yep. Exactly. I mean, and that's exactly what everything you said is exactly where I was going. And thanks for piggybacking off that, because it's really is those examples is really getting to a point where if you want the life that you see other people have, then you have to work for. I mean, I'm not saying that you're going to be a billionaire. I'm not saying
Right.
you will or will not, but work for the things you want. If you want to drive a Benz or a Ferrari or whatever, we'll work for it. I mean, you can't let the things that come into your life like stop you. I mean, I've started to share some of my story on the podcast. I mean, but Santiago knows my story. I mean, technically, I have a lung disease that I may have not really shared on this podcast before. Santiago knows I have a lung disease that every day, like sometimes I can't even get up out of bed. I mean, sometimes it's times where he don't hear from me or other people don't hear from me because I'm dealing with it, but I don't complain about it. There's other things that I got going on. I grew up in a single parent household, like I said. I mean, my father wasn't in my life. So
Right.
there's other things, but I bet you it wouldn't be fruitful if you heard me on this podcast always complaining about how shitty my life is. Or Santiago heard me as one of my friends, like heard me complaining. He'd be like, bro, like, I mean, it's not, what can you do about it? You know what I mean?
Because
Like,
that would be my response. But saying to you, to me.
Yeah, like you can't, and you just, all you got to do is keep going. I mean, from moving forward, I'm not saying that everybody that listens does this, but I encourage you, if you do have that mindset and you having those rough days where you're like, man, like life is not what I wanted, make yourself the life that you want. That comes with the education part of it, reading, finding knowledge, connecting with people. And some of that connecting with people can be just, I mean, we live in social media age. So hit somebody up on LinkedIn or hit somebody DMs like, hey man, I seen that you do this a great job. Can I learn how to do this? Can you show me? Go read some things, YouTube, etc.
Now that's I want to touch on that, Rick. That's a great point. A lot of people, are scared to, make that initial step, because there are some people who probably would, oh no, they get to a certain place and they don't want to help other people get to where they got. But there are people where if you reach out to them, they'll be more than happy to kind of break it down, and they're not going to do it for you. It's not a handout,
Mhm.
but they'll help guide you throughout it. And so I definitely encourage that. And also I'll encourage, if you guys know yourself better than we know you. If you have friends that are always there agreeable, and you don't have not one friend that's telling you when you're being extra, when this isn't right, that are right, you need to reevaluate who you have around you.
Mhm.
And that, again, it's not saying anybody's bad. It's not a superiority complex. Oh, I'm better than this person. It's none of that. What it does is it allows you to give around people who's going to force you to grow. Because complacency is just as a killer as instant gratification.
Mhm.
And with our generation, while there's a lot of good, the two things we suffer from is being complacent and instant gratification. And touching on, way back when you were talking about, the previous generation and, our generation versus Gen Z, and, them having different resources as it pertains to technology than we did as kids. You're absolutely right. There's no reason for us to be mad. And it always strikes me, the people on social media with the whole student loan forgiveness, for example. Why are you mad that somebody might have a better opportunity in life? Are you that selfish? Oh, because I had to do this, you got to do that. It's that type of mindset that unfortunately even a lot of black families had. Like, I had a struggle, so now my kids have to struggle.
Mhm.
Now there's a difference between teaching kid responsibility, teaching kid how to how to get out of this and this and that, and then just allowing them to struggle because you struggled. That doesn't need to happen. So for me, it's always interesting to see those people like, oh, I had to pay my student loan back. If you can't afford it, you shouldn't have taken it out.
Yep. But you taught in school, that's the opportunities that you're supposed to take.
Exactly. And then a lot of people didn't understand it. A lot of people, didn't have the background. They thought, different things. But at the same time, if somebody has the opportunity to live a better life, why are you upset about that? Like, you got to check yourself if you mad that somebody else may have a different opportunity. Yeah, it kind of sucks. Maybe you weren't involved. Maybe you had to pay your student loan back, because I know a lot of baby boomer generation. They're not the only ones, but they significantly think that. But going to college for them was, compared to now, was just completely, the cost was way different.
Totally different. I mean, it was, but that doesn't make it bad,
Yeah,
like you said.
it doesn't. It just, things change, and we can even relate it to sports. There's a lot of old heads, and and some things are soft, but we just ain't that type of episode, so we're not going to touch on that stuff today. But when it comes to the MLB and the NFL, like, I don't watch it anymore because, and I'm not talking about the rules changes or anything like that. I'm specifically talking about in NFL. There's a lot more, as they call them, dual threat quarterbacks. Like, and you have some people that are old heads. They're retired. You just throw the ball. You're the quarterback. Throw the ball. Stay in the pocket. Like, bruh, the game involved. Why are you upset about that? Let it go.
So,
It's a different era. Things change.
yep, I agree. I mean, even taking that a little step further, I mean, even when I say quote unquote the rules, uh, the health conditions are different as technology. Like, they, you can't call somebody soft because people are not getting hit the same type of way. People's lives were in danger. I mean, y'all lives were in danger. Just look at the health conditions some of y'all go through, and some things change for good. And that's my whole point of this. Some things change for good to help the human race evolve. As we evolve, this is going to help your lineage if you have kids, or if you don't have kids, like, help the world. I mean, we're getting to a point where, what happened to helping the next man out? I mean, that's what this company, excuse me, that's what this country was founded on, in the sense of like diversity. This America specifically uh is a melting pot. I mean, everyone has an opportunity in America, and that's why people love America. And that doesn't mean that you should discredit somebody else's opportunity because it's different than yours.
Exactly. Exactly. That's why I don't knock, I don't knock people, like I've always said, who decide to go a different way of life as far as it pertains to make money. Whether you slinging OnlyFans, premium Snapchat and stuff, but eventually all that has a shelf life.
Yep.
So you need to really make a plan to get out of that. You need to take advantage of having investment opportunities and become legit. Clean your money. Clean your money first and become legit. And so that's why, why I won't support it. I don't knock people who decide to go that route. Just have a plan for after that. Because all that has a shelf life.
Yep.
And that's just the thing where I see society, as you were saying, it's just a whole bunch of I got here by myself, so I can't help anybody else. It's just a me mentality. When nobody did anything by themselves. Even if you think you did, somebody helped you out at some point, which means you didn't do it by yourself.
Yep.
Whether it was advice, because we always like to use help as a monetary type of thing. Whether it was somebody giving their time, somebody giving advice, somebody giving criticism, somebody giving money, whatever it is, you were helped at some point in time. So for then you to get to a point, and I'm going because I'm seeing this more and more, you get to a point and act like you can't assist those who are behind you is ridiculous for me, because we all should be, especially in our community, let's help each other out. Like let's take, for instance, I'm gonna go a little sidebar right here. The PP loan situation. How they coming back, which we both have said the government they gonna get the people who were doing that scamming stuff. Now I don't know if people did this, but all the money that they got, what they could have done is use that money to buy back parts of the hood, parts of the land. Because at the end of the day, all the government does is scam us, especially with these taxes. How many times have you driven in Chicago, roads still not fixed?
Seriously.
In Lake County, we can name several streets there too. Roads not fixed, but you paying taxes. What am I paying taxes on? The school systems are still terrible too. And it's no fault of the teachers, it's the curriculum. So even with this situation, I look at it differently. People were just trying to find a way to come up, find a way to get out their situation. So did they do it appropriately though? Because what they're doing is no different than what politicians do. That we'll see. It doesn't look like it. Doesn't look like they took advantage of it, but we'll see. I don't know enough about it. But it's things like that where we're always so quick to knock, as quote unquote, the common folk for doing exactly what the rich do. The rich do and find several ways to use other people's money to get richer. So I don't knock anybody for doing what they did with the PPP loan. They should have been smarter. Some of them should have been a lot smarter and read the fine print and the disclaimers. But they're not doing anything any differently from what the rest of the government does.
Yep. I think it's sad, but it's also, don't look at it as a victim of being sad, but it's sad to know that not everybody's going to support you. Once you realize that it's sad, you have to move out of that. Like, okay, it's sad. Now let's move on. You don't need to sit there and like feel down or miserable because not everybody in the world is going to support you. Not everybody is going to feel like you need their, as they say, validation for feeling sad. You have to be able to get yourself out of that. You can't depend on others to get you out of that as well. So like you just said with the PPE loan and things like that, when some of these people have gotten caught, they're oh, can I mean, me and you talked about even, and
Yeah,
we seen some of the people setting up
GoFundMe thing. Like,
GoFundMe's and stuff like
nah,
that, like
I'm not
saying
helping you with that.
saying like, oh well, I spent the money. I don't want my. I seen one that was like, I have kids. You weren't thinking about that when you were doing like scamming. If you were going to scam, then do it smartly.
Yes, be smart about it. Like,
Yeah, and this is where I can't support the whole like victim. When we just went back to a victim, like you're playing a victim because you made a choice. I mean, and the other part of that, and that I want to touch on, going back to what we're saying, it comes from the educational piece of like when you talk about like you just got this loan and you supposedly had this business or whatever, why didn't you use that money to actually start a legitimate business and get your business going? Or like you said, get the hood going, or set up things where you can have an opportunity to pass something down to your children. Or if you don't have children, other people, yourself, set yourself up. I mean, these people, a lot of these people had opportunities with this money to make something of themselves, and the government would have forgiven it most likely if you would have just set up a business and kept going, but you didn't. You set it up to go buy a house, a Benz, Ranger, whatever.
exactly. And that's what I'm saying when it comes to exactly. And that's how it ties into the victim mindset and changing your mindset. Because I do know a few people who did what they did, flipped the money to the point to where not only they could pay back the loan because they read the fine print, they read the disclaimers. I mean, it was right there what it tells you if you do fraud. I mean, it was right there. It was you just scroll down. First of all, I don't understand why the people who got away with that, or the people who were telling people, hey, if you give me 30% of what you get, I could fill out this application for you. The application was easier than some job applications I filled out. It asks for your social, your name of your business, and a few other things, what your revenue was or whatever. But anyways, what I'm saying is just more from the victim mindset of like you said, the GoFundMe. I'm not about to send you money because you weren't smart about what you did.
Mhm.
I'm about no. There's people. There's two people I know specifically who did that, flipped it to the point of starting something legitimate, got the money back, was able to prove with documents and stuff like that. Um, were able to do what they needed to do, and without giving it too much cheaper, they're fine because they were smart about what they did.
Yeah.
And that's where it comes from, like you said, the education. But a lot of us, again, it's that instant gratification. So when you, especially if you're struggling, like I get it to an extent. If you're struggling, you don't lost your job, especially if you're at a restaurant or some customer service type of environment, even like a hair salon or whatever. You're a barber, blah blah blah, blah blah. And all that gets shut down. You like, man, I gotta feed my kids, I gotta do this, I gotta pay rent, blah 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 blah. And somebody come tell you, bruh, I can get you $120,000 grant that you ain't gotta pay back.
Yeah.
Most people are not gonna question. You should definitely be questioning that. I think the old girl who started the GoFundMe campaign, she owed like what was like $250,000.
Yes, I'm trying to think so.
Yeah, something around like 200,000. I'm not about to help you with that. What you do with the money?
That's what we all wonder. How can you spend this in months? Like, but it goes to again, like, first off, you're a victim. Maybe you were a victim in a sense of like being born into a situation where life was unfair to some degree, as some people would say. I don't call life being unfair, but your circumstances may have like been bad that you were
Yeah,
raised into or born into, whatever.
right.
But from that situation, you had this opportunity to make things a reality for yourself. And what I mean by reality, to build something of yourself. I mean, if you got $250,000, how you spend that? I mean, you went and bought a house. You went and bought. I mean, from what I saw, and I don't
Yeah,
know
it
her
was
that
a
well,
house.
so
Yeah,
yeah.
it was a house.
So don't. It was a house. I think I seen that like a Range Rover, and then I seen like the news people showing us her house, like saying like, "Hey, uh, you're that girl." I think I seen like people at the news like even showing up saying like, "Hey, they're coming for you," even before they actually came for her because they found out the scandal she was doing. So when people put themselves in these situations, I mean, you just made yourself a victim even more. Now you done went from having a victim mentality, so you feel like to feeling like you're entitled to this money. Yes, we all feel like life was not always fair, but don't feel like you're entitled to not work hard. I
Yeah.
mean, you felt like you were entitled. You Now you spent all this money. Part of that is ignorance, but the other part of it is that you want to do stuff to show off because you bought things that were unrealistic. You know dang well that you can't afford the house. So you know dang well you can't afford a Range Rover. So if you bought these things that are unrealistic, don't you think these people gonna find out and come like, how'd you go from the hood to this?
Yeah. And man, yeah. And last I'm touch on this and wrap back into, the whole thing of, how to handle, navigate. But exactly. A lot of people, again, and you could blame, oh, it's the mentality of me not having anything, but you can make all these excuses in the world. Here's the thing: you're a grown adult. Go to therapy, do whatever you need to do to get out of that mindset constructively.
Hmm.
Because for me, I can make the excuses that even though my parents are solid now, they weren't for the majority of my childhood up until me being a teenager. I could turn around and be like, I come from this and I come from that. That's why I am the way I am. And I'm not knocking the people that grew on survival. That's totally different. If you 12, 13, and you essentially raising your sisters and brothers, it's different. What I'm saying is the people that whose circumstances weren't the best, but they turn around and use that as excuse for still being in that same mindset without trying to get out of it. Because if you really looked at it, you can use your environment to propel you to a different environment. And for me, a lot of the people, because it was a spectrum, just didn't do. They weren't smart about it. You're buying Range Rover, you're buying all this stuff, and I don't feel bad for any of them who got caught up in a sense who were doing that, because it says right in the disclaimer of it, all you got to do is go down to like the second paragraph, and I try to explain this to people before they were doing this. Like I really actually actively tried to explain this to people on Facebook, and they're like, "Oh no, this is not that serious. The government ain't worried about it." I'm like, what you mean? The government would chase you down for $200,
For
and
real.
y'all taking hundreds of thousands. You think you about to get away with that? It says in the second paragraph, pretty much, if anything was fraudulent, you would first of all will have to pay 100% of the loan plus interest, because it turns from a grant to a loan. Excuse me. Well, it's a PPP loan. So what it was, if your stuff was legitimate and you had the paper records to show it, it was removed as a loan. It was forgiven. But it wasn't anything you took out was not only required to be paid back, but paid back for interest. That's just the first part. The second part of it was also you could be tried and have be sent to federal prison as well. So I'm telling people like, hey, if you're gonna do this, be smart.
Hmm. Yeah.
Nobody wants to listen. They don't. People say they want the education. People say they want to be better, and this is gonna go tie them right back in. But a lot of people actually don't want that because it takes time. So when it comes to dealing with those closest with you about sharing your vision, your goal, I would highly advise you to know that where your mental stability is and know who and who not to share your stuff with.
Yeah.
And the best way to navigate, through that is like Javon said, just talking, like giving little pieces and see how people act. Because for me, one of the biggest issues I had was the person I was with. I had to tell her to support me.
Hmm.
And it shouldn't be like that. And I don't mean that just with significant others, but with friends. If your friends aren't automatically sharing your stuff, if your friends aren't going as hard for you as they do for all these celebrities who don't know them, but they keep making rich, you need to reevaluate your circle. Because I saw this post, and I'm sure you saw it too, Javon. Like, if my friend does taxes, that's where I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do taxes. My friend cuts hair, that's where I'm getting my hair cut. My friend does this is where I'm going. Within reason, I'm gonna do that too, because I gotta make sure he's legitimate. I mean, just because he's my friend, I gotta make sure he knows what he's doing with the taxes. But if you know what you're doing, I'm gonna give you my business, and not only I'm gonna give you my business, I'm gonna send you business,
Right.
and vice versa. And that actually is what's supposed to be like. That's what your circle could be. I'm not saying, because I know they have this, oh, if you're almost 30 and your circle is in talking about investments and this, you need to change your circle. You don't always have to be that deep. It don't always have to be about business. Sometimes y'all just want to chill, be young adults that we are. If you got families, talk about your kids, go out, have a couple drinks and stuff. But if your circle at some point isn't talking about growth, then you need to reevaluate who you're with.
Yeah.
And a lot of our issues, a lot of our self-esteem, a lot of our insecurities as a whole comes from us not being secure with ourselves, but being around the wrong people who enhance those insecurities, because they themselves are insecure about something. So they project that out by either teasing you about what you're going to do, making fun of you about whatever business opportunity. Let's say you weren't really good with numbers or math, but you want to do something in business that requires a lot of accountancy or a lot of things where math is involved. Being around the wrong people can make you feel like, man, I can't do this. Or starting a clothing line. I had a bunch of people say, there's so many people with a clothing line, what makes sure is any different? Which is actually a fair question. So I had to come with a different perspective. But then you have people who are like, oh, you guys aren't gonna, it's nothing different. Everybody has a clothing line. You're not gonna take off, essentially, is what they said. You see the two differences there. One person's asking, what is going to set you guys apart, versus another person pretty much saying you guys aren't going to take off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, that was a great example, what you just said. Even the approach somebody like takes, because they can be asking a question and be legitimately asking, but they're asking also to make you think, compared to somebody who goes about it where they're like just telling you that they know that you're not going to be successful with this brand or whatever it is you're doing. Or people are like, oh, you're a nerd, I wouldn't do that, especially when it comes to things that someone can be passionate about or somebody enjoys, but people putting them down. I know we both have shared that in other episodes about, like, there's been times like for me, like I said, my uncle or whatever, like the piano and ballet stuff. And I know Santiago has shared different things like that he enjoyed doing. People was like, I don't know about all that. So those are things like when we talk about, even not just when it comes to success from a business standpoint, but success from you developing your identity and developing who you are. So that's also the other part of it, is success doesn't always have to be about money, investments, or whatever else, business. It can also be about you being secure within yourself, you being a happy individual. People often talk about things such as, do you have your own house? Do you have this or that? But they don't actually like, are you happy? Are you content with what your life is? How can I help you? If I could make your day a little bit better as my boy or as your significant other, or is this, what loads can I take off you? So watch those things. I mean, for me, even every day I'm learning something new from the people around me. Santiago pointed out a good example about, like, when you talk about like your circle, people often talk about like you should be having this or that, going by the age. It doesn't always have to do with age either. I mean, there's things that I'm still learning. I can be 50 and there's things I'm going to be learning and my boys are going to be learning. We just putting back into each other. I mean, your age doesn't always determine where you are in your life. I mean, everybody ages mentally differently. I mean, if you look at, people like Santiago, Craig, and Craig is the youngest one out of us. Craig will be back on the show soon. He just got a bunch of business and traveling. So I do want to throw that out. But Craig is the youngest one out of us three, out of this friend group and a show. So when you look at him, it's helping him develop being around people like me and Santiago. We don't say like, oh man, Craig, because you're the youngest, you're not going to be successful. This is that. We're putting back into him different things, and he puts things into us that we don't necessarily think of because he comes with a different perspective. I'm sure y'all even notice on the podcast, like, it's different things that he says that we don't necessarily say on this show because he has a different perspective. And that diversity is important when you surround yourself in that energy that you put yourself around too.
Exactly. And with that, there are people just because they're younger, they you have to be humble when you're starting your journey. You can't go over even if it's something, let's say you're a truck driver, you've been working out all your life, you went to D1 school or whatever, and now you want to be a coach, or you want to start, a personal training type of regimen. You can't go into any facet of business thinking you know everything, even if you believe you do. There's a difference between arrogance and confidence.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to have that confidence and that ability that, oh, I can do what I want to do, but you want to be humble enough to be able to receive information from other people. And it doesn't have to be from somebody who's been in the business for 20 years, even though that's helpful. But most of us, within reason, I would think if somebody came up to us who was a billionaire, millionaire, and was trying to give you some advice, most of us are going to sit down and listen to them. But what we struggle with is listening to some people who may have not made it in the way that we're going, and they're trying to give us advice because we're looking at their status and their potential and their quality of their information based on their bank account. And that's the dumbest way to go about it.
Yeah.
Because some people know, like, hey, if you do this, you got to look out for this or this, because I didn't, and this is why I have to start over. Or I realized this is what didn't work for me. Or I ran into this issue or that issue. So you have to be humble and confident at the same time. And that comes from, like, Craig definitely, like, peeps some stuff that maybe we don't see. And I definitely, like, hear out what a lot of you has to see, because Craig Mack definitely be, he'd be dropping some gems from here and there. So for me, I don't care, what your background is to an extent. I'm gonna at least hear what you gotta say. If it sounds like some bull, I'm just gonna nod, be like, okay, go with God, and I'm gonna leave. But if if I really think it's information I can lose, I'm gonna apply it moving forward, because you never know what information somebody can give you that will springboard you. So you can't go off this notion nonsense. I mean, even some homeless people have given me some great advice. I mean, they asked for money afterwards, but they gave me some great advice.
Exactly. I mean, I won't keep y'all too long. I'll finish with this. Always be open to different experience, different people, but also be mindful that not everybody's going to support you, as well as educate yourself all the time. Every day try to learn something different. Set yourself goals. Set your eyes on what you want and go towards it. There's going to be things that get in the way, but that does not mean that you have to, like, stop. There's always going to be people that get in the way, and there's also going to be other obstacles that get in the way that you may not expect it. Be prepared. I also will say that another good example with Santiago, and I'll touch off this and let him go. When Santiago first met me, and I'm gonna say this because he said this to me and it threw me off, but I understood. When Santiago first met me, he said, not at the time, but later on in our friendship, he was like, when I first met you, I thought you possibly could be arrogant because you dress really nice. You had this persona like you was a pretty boy dude. But he was like, when I took the time to actually, like, get to know you, I was like, oh, he's not like that. So sometimes you don't know by somebody's first impression, and they can be good people. I mean, there's things about Santiago that I was like, but we end up being friends. I asked him, like, to go to the gym because I knew that he was fit. And I was like, man, I'm not fit like that. Santiago's very fit. I can learn something off this. Let me go to the gym with you, man. And he was like, yeah, bro. And that's really a start of our friendship, is me asking him to go to the gym.
So you said, I'm gonna need you to elaborate there, my guy.
Huh?
You said, there's some things about Santiago. You were like,
Well, that's what I said. Like, I was like, like, I don't know him that well, but when I first met you, I was like, okay.
I
I
was
mean,
just gonna say if you're gonna say what I've heard like more than once, that's all.
what's that?
You're not gonna make me say it, bro. You
No,
already
what's that?
know.
What's that?
You already know, bro. You're not gonna make me say it.
Short head, big, short, big
No, you
head.
got jokes. No, that's not.
No,
But nah, no, I'll say like I've been told multiple times by people when they first met me, they're like, I thought you were an asshole.
no, I didn't think you when we first
And
met. Definitely didn't think you was an asshole. I didn't really get a vibe like what when we first met because I met him and Craig Mack the same night for y'all.
yeah,
And when,
yeah, you
and when
did.
I met both of them, I was like, okay. When I met Craig, I was like, all right, this guy like he's a pretty decent guy, but then Craig don't hear this episode, so I don't care. But I'm like, this guy talks a lot. But I know why he talks. Once you get to know Craig, it's
Yeah,
not that
you'll understand it.
you'll understand. Like he talks because he a lot of type of stuff is legitimate. When I met
Yeah,
Santiago,
he
I'm
likes the
like,
engagement. Exactly.
and I met Santiago, I was like, does like he talks, but what I can't really get a vibe off him right now. So like that was my impression. I'm like, what can he what then when I said him, like, I can't really get this vibe off him. He could be an ass or it could be humble. I really don't know
But
because
see,
he
that's sorry.
no, go ahead.
That's exactly what I've gotten, and I'm like, really? Because I don't be saying that. And one of my closer friends, she was telling me this the other day. She was like, but that's exactly why, because you have this face, just like the stone face when you first meet somebody, like don't approach me, but when they approach you, you're engaged, but it's just so like you can't figure out if you enjoying the conversation. She tried to explain it, and I don't even understand it myself because for me, just simply put, it's just one because the military definitely enhanced it. But one, I've always been that person where I'm observing anybody new that I'm around. So even with you, like I called it wrong, but it didn't help that our first conversation was about that whole,
Yeah.
it's so I was like, man, it's this dude. I was like, we'll see. I was like, maybe he just sees things differently. And then when we start going to the gym, I'm like, oh, this dude is real. We're a real solid cat. And then we started talking and everything like that. Kind of like, opening up to each other in between gym sets and stuff. Like, nah, this dude real cool dude. I was definitely, had the wrong impression. But that just goes to, our biases and stuff
Yep.
like going off of somebody, the way they look or dress, which is something that I had to curve, not even coming from you, but just when I see other people. I can't,
Yeah.
because I wouldn't want somebody to do that to me.
Yep.
You feel me? I wouldn't want somebody to look at me and go off a very, specific type of bias based on, the way I look. But at the same time, it does matter how you dress.
Yep.
So the last thing I would say is when you are in business, when you are interacting, a lot of us, I'm not telling you to change who you are, but meet people where you're at. If you're trying to get an investment opportunity and this person is from Wheeling, Illinois, don't go in there speaking how you would speak to your friends if y'all were just doing a kickback.
Right.
If you know this person's from a certain, I'm not telling you to change yourself. I'm not telling you to, you got to go straighten your hair and stuff. Go in with your natural stuff. Go in, with if you got dreads, go in that. Be yourself, but at the same time, meet people where they're at.
Be adaptable.
Yes. Because if you're not adaptable in business, that's going to hurt you. That is the best. That's some advice I can give as well. Continue to be yourself, but be adaptable based on your situation.
Yeah. I mean, like you just said that in y'all heard our side story, but it was very much relevant about like when we first met. Like I said, like I thought Craig talked a lot, and I'm like, all right, this dude think he know everything, but that's not even how he is. He's just
Nah,
a people
not at all.
individual. And and I Santiago, I was like, man, I don't know where this dude at. I don't even know if I really want to interact with Santiago because I
That's
can't really
fair.
read him. So I'm like, I don't
That's
know if
fair.
this dude can be a total asshole or he can be a good guy, but based off me not being able to read him where he was at and who he was, it made me have like an impression like I don't even know like if I want to hang out. And it took me a
That's
couple
fair.
weeks, and then that's when I was like,
Yeah.
man, I sent him on Snap like, hey bro, like know you fit. and that was again going back to what we were talking about, Santiago, and I was just talking about. No, close out because I know y'all are tired of us talking.
Yeah.
That sometimes you just got to reach out. Was I fit
Yeah.
at the time? I was fit to a certain degree, but I have fell off because I had been through some things that
Yeah,
made me
there's
fell
some
off.
things going on at the time. Yeah.
Yeah, fell off from my weight, fell off on a lot of other things, which we'll probably get into another time. But
Yeah.
anyways, and so I was like, Santiago's pretty fit. I know he goes to the gym. This would be a good gym partner. And then in that, Santiago was still fit, but we still pushed each other. And it was
Yeah.
things he learned from me, things I learned from him. So reach out
Exactly.
sometime.
Reach
Just reach
out.
out.
Yeah, exactly. And just to close, yeah, you never know what type of friendships and bonds you can form from people from just like he said, just reaching out. It's definitely a scary thing, and this even goes out for anybody if you're trying to, you're trying to shoot your shot. Just be careful because people like screenshotting these days. But that'll be another topic for another time. But reach out. As more pertains to business, reach out. The worst somebody can do is leave you on red. It's not that serious. Keep it moving. But a lot of us want to get to a point where we have financial freedom, where we can create generational wealth. But in order to get there, we have to work hard. And it's not going to be easy. It's going to be sleepless nights. It's going to be nights where, as a business owner, you're going to want to give up on yourself. And that's okay to have those times. Don't think it's okay to want to give up on yourself. Just don't. It's okay to feel like the world is crashing. It's okay to have all those type of feelings. Just don't succumb to them. Elon Musk said, if you need motivation to be an entrepreneur, then don't be one.
Mm-hmm.
Because you shouldn't, your only motivation or discipline should be within. That's all I got.
Well, this has been us. I hope y'all took some of these nuggets. If y'all need to re-listen. We
Why'd
always
your voice just get all like,
look, man, chill out. I need
I'm
to.
just,
I
y'all
need to
heard that,
give
right?
them. I need to give them
Y'all
a
heard
conversation.
that, right?
I'm speaking to them as if I'm with you one on one.
Okay, you hear that, right? Like, you hear how his voice just got, yeah. So if you want to just rewatch it or re-listen, y'all heard that.
But as usual, I'm gonna tell you all. Y'all see how I got kind of in that impersonal voice again. Follow us on Instagram, City Gents 8487, as well as like our Facebook. We do have a Facebook as well, the City Gents. We get a lot of views actually, which is weird because we get more views than what I would expect because y'all should be listening and viewing our YouTube, but y'all view our Facebook and all our social medias more than y'all view our YouTube. But that's another time.
Yeah, that's enough. Yeah.
The City Gents podcast on YouTube, as well as send us email at thecitygents@gmail.com.
Is it CityGentsPodcast@gmail.com?
Yes, City Gents podcast. My bad.
They would have got an under deliverable and they'd be like, these Negroes lied to me.
We look forward to hearing from y'all, and I'll let Santiago wrap it up.
Yeah, so
you talking about me? Look at him.
Yeah, I mean, bro, you never know. You never know who could be listening. You want to, put me on the radio one day. I could bring you on to do interviews too, and you never know. Bro. Let me stop. But it's Santiago, hasta luego. What was I gonna say? Yes, about the YouTube. I know a lot of us listen on Anchor and Spotify, but definitely check out our YouTube, subscribe to there, let us know in the email any, subjects or topics you want us to touch on. We definitely will hit them. We definitely will touch on them. Any personal experiences you want to share. Again, like we did previously, we'll do the happy hour segment. We'll bring that back, but we just won't use names or we use generic names. So that's all I got.
And you can comment on YouTube. So
remember that too. Comment. Tengas un bien dia, and I'm out.
All right. It's been nice talking to y'all today. All right, we go.